Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are bringing you an incredibly fascinating explainer. We're going to literally dissect the hidden cosmological and spiritual mechanics of a prayer phrase that millions of people repeat every single day. Whether you've been saying these words your whole life or you're completely new to this, we are going to look at the anatomy of this prayer in a highly structured way. We're going way beyond the surface here to uncover a profound psychological and cosmic framework that's basically been hiding in plain sight.
Okay, let's dive into this. 7 million. In the source material we're exploring today, they do some pretty eye-opening math regarding the phrase Subhanallah, which means glory be to Allah. So check this out. If a person says this phrase 33 times after their 5 daily prayers, over the course of 40 years, that adds up to over 2.4 million repetitions. But when you add in all the variations of this phrase recited during the actual daily prayers, that number absolutely skyrockets to a staggering 7 million repetitions in a single lifetime. 7 million.
Which, brings us to a crucial question. Isn't it kind of strange to repeat a word millions of times without really knowing its true multi-layered meaning? It's a pretty shocking realization when you stop and think about it. The source argues that rote repetition without actual understanding creates this massive knowledge gap. So, to bridge that gap, we're going to anatomically deconstruct the specific opening supplication of the Islamic prayer. We'll go sentence by sentence to understand exactly what is happening when these words are spoken.
So the prayer begins with this exact phrase, Subhanakallahumma. It translates to, "Glory be to you, O Allah. You are far from any flaw, imperfection, or deficiency." Now the source beautifully illustrates the physical and mental action that accompanies the very start of this prayer. When a person raises their hands to begin, it's like they're symbolically pushing the entire world and all of its distractions aside with the backs of their hands. It's this incredibly active declaration, acknowledging absolute, unquestionable perfection.
And by acknowledging that perfection, the source notes that this phrase actively refutes the flawed views of God that you might find in other texts. It completely rejects the idea, for instance, found in the book of Genesis that God grew tired and had to take a rest. It rejects the concept of God needing a child. It even challenges concepts found in Hinduism of gods fighting each other, or the Zoroastrian idea of a secondary God creating evil, or even that Old Testament story of God physically wrestling with a prophet. This phrase firmly establishes that the Creator never sleeps, never tires, and has absolutely zero human deficiencies.
And this brilliantly illustrates a second layer of meaning, which is absolute amazement. Whether you're zooming in and examining the microscopic crystal structure of a unique snowflake, or you're looking through a telescope at a vast spiral of galaxies, the message of perfection is identical. The source points out this totally mind-bending fact. There are actually more stars in the sky than there are grains of sand on Earth. Let that sink in. Saying this phrase unites those micro and macro worlds in a shared praise of a flawless creator.
To really ground this idea, the text walks us through these highly relatable, everyday wonders of creation. Think about the flawless aerodynamics of a bird in flight, or a baby forming from what starts as just a lifeless piece of flesh. Consider how water basically defies gravity to travel all the way up a tree trunk, just to nourish the top leaves of a tall tree. Or even the natural preservation shell of a watermelon. It's packed with seeds to ensure it multiplies and doesn't just go extinct after the first harvest. The explainer source essentially views the entire universe as this giant art gallery, with every single masterpiece bearing the signature, Subhanallah.
This brings us to the second phrase of our dissection, wa bihamdika. This translates to praise is for you. But the source defines praise here as a very specific, profound combination of admiration and gratitude. It's asking us to pause for a second and deeply reflect. As you go about your day, when you feel grateful, who is the true, ultimate source of those daily blessings? To explain this, the source uses a highly effective analogy. Imagine receiving a gift you've been desperately wanting. You eagerly thank the delivery guy who dropped it at your front door, but you completely forget to thank, or even ask about, the person who actually bought and sent the gift in the first place. It's an absurd scenario, right? Yet this is exactly what the source says people do every single day with their blessings. We constantly praise the causes, the delivery guys, and completely ignore the ultimate owner and giver of those blessings.
Let's apply that analogy to our own lives. When you witness a spectacular pink, yellow, and red painted sunset, when you step outside and take a deep, refreshing breath of fresh air, when you hear the soothing sound of rainfall, or sit shoulder to shoulder with a good friend, or give a big hug to your spouse or child. In all these beautiful, everyday moments, The phrase wa bihamdika lifts the veil. It redirects your gratitude away from just the delivery guys of the world and channels it straight to the true creator of that happiness. Okay, so the third segment of the prayer introduces a deeply vital concept, wata baraka smuk, which means there is baraka or blessing and abundance in your name. Baraka is defined as that special, almost unexplainable quality where a small amount of something becomes unexpectedly abundant. You know that feeling where an hour of focused work feels like you accomplished 5 hours worth of tasks? Compared to taking 1,000 steps but feeling like you've only moved 1 inch forward? That is baraka. The text gives us this striking comparison to understand exactly how baraka works in nature. A tiny, one-day-old bee can fly miles away from its hive and return without ever losing its direction. Meanwhile, a highly intelligent 3-year-old human child would easily get totally lost in a local market. So how does the bee do it? Or how does a cow eat nothing but simple green grass and produce nutrient-dense milk? The source posits that animals operate naturally with Bismillah, in God's name. They are perfectly attuned to this natural abundance and direction. And the source explains that we can actively unlock this exact same life-altering barakah by simply applying Bismillah to our daily routines. It's a straightforward, step-by-step psychological and spiritual framing. Sit at the table with this mindset and the food becomes blessed. Drink a glass of water and it becomes healing. Get into your car and your whole journey is framed in safety. Open a book and your mind is cleared for learning. It's literally that transformative. Let's move to and see how this builds into our fourth phrase, wa ta'ala jadduk, meaning your greatness and glory are above everything. This is where we shift the focus away from our daily human routines and zoom way out back to the incomprehensible scale of cosmic balance and supreme greatness. Just consider the physics at play right this second. The Earth you are sitting on is rotating on its axis at 1,670 kilometers per hour. Simultaneously, it's hurtling through space, orbiting the sun at a dizzying 108,000 kilometers per hour. And yet, amid these massive, violent cosmic speeds, you are sitting there calmly drinking a cup of coffee without spilling a single drop. It is a vivid, everyday illustration of flawless, invisible control.
Now add this number to the equation, 600 million. Every single second, 600 million tons of hydrogen turn into helium inside our sun, creating this massive, non-stop energy transformation. The text emphasizes that Allah manages all of this terrifying cosmic power flawlessly, while at the exact same time intimately knowing the most hidden, quiet thoughts in your mind.
Realizing the scale of that power provides a profound emotional anchor. As the source states, I am not fighting my battles alone. I am backed by the power of Allah Himself. With His single command, the entire situation can shift. Remembering this immense cosmic authority is presented as the ultimate cure for our worldly anxieties. Suddenly, your small daily worries, your financial fears, your health anxieties, they're all placed into proper perspective against the power that literally commands the universe. Now there is a fascinating shift in the source text here. It introduces a variation of the prayer, wajala thana'ak, which means your praise is exalted. But what is uniquely interesting is that this specific phrase is recited almost exclusively in the funeral prayer. It serves as a deeply personal climax to the explainer, introducing death as the ultimate human equalizer. Because at the gravesite, all the things we stress over daily are instantly rendered meaningless. The source lists these worldly distractions, millions of dollars in bank accounts, coveted job titles and corporate status, physical muscles and beauty, or your thousands of social media followers. At the moment of death, all of it fades away completely. It leaves only the eternal, endless power of the Creator as the sole entity that truly remains worthy of praise.
Which brings us to the final, anchoring phrase of this supplication, وَلَا إِلَهَ غَيْرُكَ. There is no God but you. The source notes that this heavily mirrors the core Islamic declaration, La ilaha illallah. It's a truth described as being so incredibly profound that an entire lifetime of reflection honestly isn't enough to fully grasp its weight. It's meant to be the heart's true refuge.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the modular nature of this final phrase. By substituting the generic word for God with specific attributes of the Creator, the phrase unlocks dozens of layers of meaning. There is no provider except Allah. There is no healer except Allah. There is no possessor of power except Allah. This isn't just repetition. It is an active, targeted therapy for whatever the believer happens to be struggling with on any given day. And that brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer.
Truly understanding the anatomy of these words transforms mindless, rote repetition into a deeply conscious psychological anchor. When a person aligns their mind, heart, and tongue with these cosmic and spiritual truths, the prayer completely stops being just a robotic duty. Instead, it transforms into a highly effective form of therapy and a true spiritual meeting.
We have unpacked an incredible amount of structure and meaning from a few short sentences today, but I want to leave you with this provocative thought from the source material, a lingering question to ensure we don't just passively listen, but actually internalize this journey. One day our tongues will fall completely silent. When that day comes, what truths will have firmly settled in your heart before you enter the grave? Take a moment to really think about that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking to understand the profound mechanics behind the world around you.